Hello, everyone. Is it going through? Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday Passion Week lunch lecture. Uh, I'd like to welcome you here today. And well, that's good to know. The microphone is only for the live stream. So as long as you understand me, that's at least one victory. Welcome to the Wednesday lecture of our Passion Week. And today we are going to talk about, the future, or more specifically, about how do you express your opinion. For this lecture, we have invited Frederik Boersma. He does a lot of these kinds of lectures, so he's probably quite experienced in talking, and you will notice that, I hope. He will introduce himself a bit further, but first I'd like to mention the Slido. If you at any point during this lecture have a question, then you can just ask it in the Slido, and we'll try to get to you at the end of the lecture. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Frederik over here, and I would say take it away.
Yes. Words and the introduction. A little bit about me. I'm 35 years old, pretty old already. I'm father of a daughter. I'm married. I've got two bearded dragons as pets, some kind of reptile. And in the last 10 years, I've been involved in this kind of weeks. And so yeah, that's a little bit about me. And during the talk, I will explain a little bit more, some backgrounds. So hopefully you get a better picture. And if you got any questions, please put them on Slido or come to me afterwards. Would love to talk further with you about anything. And in this week, during Passion Week on the first day, there was a look on that every person has some point of view, and we are all biased in some way. Yesterday, there was a talk about how to find out what's your opinion, how to make up your opinion. And I was asked to tell a little bit about how to express your opinion. And I think it's really important, certainly also in the university, to think about this kind of questions. When I was a student, I really liked the discussion with people from different backgrounds, big debates between different people, and it's really a good place to do something like that. And when I was a student, I was studying archaeology in Groningen, so in the north of the Netherlands. And if you study archaeology, you're just surrounded with people who are alternative. Everybody is listening to metal, or at least hard rock, and wearing strange clothes and stuff like that. At the same time, I was also part of a student association, just like the one organizing this event. And they were all neatly dressed, they just listened to the radio music, and so on. And some moment, on my 21st birthday, my study mates came to me, and they had a present for me. And they say to me, Frederik, in the next week, you will get a piercing. So I got a piercing in the next week, and I really liked that idea. I really loved to have a piercing. It was something I already longed for a long time. Probably a lot of you think that's a stupid idea, and most of my people from my student association thought the same. They thought it's stupid to have something like metal in your lip. Why should you do something like that, something so ugly? So I get a lot of responses on the expression of my inner alternative being back then. A lot of people didn't like it on my student association, but they really liked it when I was with my study mates. And people were sometimes even avoiding me in some way. They didn't want to talk with me, or they didn't go into public with me back then. So it was really interesting to see the response of something simple like that. After a few months, I woke up and my lip was this size and it was irritated, and I had to get it out. So the people from my student association were really, really happy that I had to move it. But that was a little bit about my alternative being back then. But it's not really that, it's just something personal. But if you express your opinion in different ways, it can also be more difficult. Maybe you've heard about this. Also, the University of Groningen, there was a teacher, Associate Professor Tjeerd Andringa. He was giving some critical classes about critical thinking. And during his classes, he was also telling about conspiracy theories. And a lot of his people in his class said, okay, we don't want to believe in those conspiracy theories. They went to the board of the university, and the board of the university kicked him out temporarily to stop with his class. Later on, they stopped him also with giving any class at all at the university. And now they're just investigating, can he even continue with his work on the university? He was expressing his opinion in public, and he wasn't appreciated for that. And I think it's good to think about how do we express our opinion and what can the responses be on this. And today I want to talk with you about two things. And the first one is about truth and love. I think that's really important if you want to express our opinion. It's good to think about that. And the second part will be about who influence you. What's your inspiration? What are people who inspire you? In the last month, I just started with a new job. Now I'm some kind of neighbor pastor. I'm working in a neighborhood. But before that, I was a student pastor. And I was doing it for a long time, already 10 years. I really liked what I was doing. When I started, I had a lot of opportunities. Meet up with students, talk with them, have good conversations, help them to develop. And I really liked what I was doing. But after a few years, I was thinking, okay, I need to change something. So I moved to a different city, do some different things inside my work. And I always had the feeling like, this is a place where I should be. This is the thing I should do. And when I was looking to everything what was happening, I saw a lot of good things happening. But on some moment, I felt disconnected with my heart. I was not doing it with my heart anymore. I was doing good stuff, but there was not any connection with it. And maybe you know the guy, Jordan Peterson. He wrote a book, 12 Rules of Life, for Life. And he got a rule, the 8th rule. And in this rule, he's saying, tell the truth, or at least don't lie. And according to Peterson, I was lying to myself for a long time. I thought, okay, this is the thing I should do, probably the rest of my life, for at least many, many more years. And I was convincing myself all the time, if things will change, if I just move, if I just do a little bit other things inside my job, then it will be good. Then it will be perfect. Maybe if Corona will end, then it will be perfect. And on some moment, I just realized I'm lying to myself at the moment. This is not the place where I should be anymore. Still, a lot of good things were happening, but I didn't feel connected anymore. I was not honest to myself. And according to Peterson, often we are lying to ourselves. And often we are telling things to ourselves that's not true, and we want to believe in something. And he's saying it's really hard if you are not open to other truths. He's really challenging people to think about different truths and put them next to each other and think about them truly and ask questions about it. And he also said that the longer you live in a lie, the longer you lie to yourself, it's much harder to stop believing in it. It's much harder to undo the way you're thinking about it. And it can be in different levels that you're lying to yourself. I was lying to myself about the rest of my life, what I want to do in the rest of my life, for kind of job. Other people, maybe you, are involved in a study that you have the feeling like it bites with my being. I'm studying something that I don't really want to become. That's also happening often. Maybe because your parents want you to study this, or maybe some other people do this. Or maybe you're involved in some toxic relationships, and you have the feeling like this is not good, but I just need to continue with this. And so there can be many, many ways how you can lie to yourself. I just want to give a few seconds, maybe think about for yourself, are there things in my life where I lie about to myself? Just 15 seconds, something like that. Just think about it. I don't want to bring you also directly in depression by giving you a big thing to think about. Jordan Peterson gives also some helpful suggestions how you can develop this. Saying first thing, figure out what you really want and why. He's saying a lot of people don't really know what they want and why. And he's also saying if you want something, don't focus on status, because that can easily just fade away. But mostly focus on your character. Focus on you, who you really are, and develop those things. You can always bring them along if you move from one place to another place. So he's saying that's the most important thing to develop. Second one is act only consistently with your personal truth. He's also saying, and certainly also with young people, a lot of people saying, this is really important for me. Or maybe climate change is really, really important, we have to do something about it. But they're not changing their personal behavior. And he's saying, if you're saying something like that, but you don't behave that way, you don't believe it. You're just lying. And he's saying we have to be consistent. If you believe something, show it in your life. If not, then you don't have to show it. So he's saying that's really important also to do that. And the third one is keep an open mind. It's going to be easy that you have the feeling like, I already know anything about this or that. Or that kind of people have a complete different opinion and I'm not agreeing with that in total. I don't want to be in conversation with this or that. And he's saying just keep an open mind. Sometimes challenge yourself often. I found it always the most interesting things when I was challenged by people around me to think about big questions in life. So also for you, keep an open mind and also adjust sometimes your thinking. You're not the smartest person you will become in the future, hopefully not yet. And you can always be smarter and you can always learn from other people around you. So there's some helpful thoughts about, okay, we have to be honest, we have to be consistent. But another thinker, Augustine of Hippo, maybe you know about him. He was kind of church father in the 4th and 5th century. But he did a lot of writing, and a lot of thinking we still have comes also from his ideas. And he's been doing a lot of research also, and a lot of thinking about how do we decide on things we want to do in life. And he's saying often we are led by the love. We just focus on the things we like, we love. We can have the feeling, certainly on a technical university, like we always want to have the facts ready and want to do fact check. And I think it's really good to do some fact checks. But I think you cannot decide on everything in your life with fact checks. You can never, for example, the breads you've just been eating, you haven't checked if they are poisoned or not. Maybe all will be dead in half an hour. I don't know. I haven't met them. I'm just eating one before, so I'm still alive. But it can be ending in 1 hour or something like that. So you cannot check everything. A lot of things you just think, okay, I love bread, I love food, I just eat something. So it goes with a lot of things in our lives. So it's also really important to see what's going on, what are the things I really love, and do you act consistently with those things. In one of his writings, he's also saying the following. In order to discover the character of people, we have only to observe what they love. He's also referring to our character, the way we act. I think it's really important, it's also in a time like this, to be authentic, to be honest, to act consistently with what you're doing. It's also what Peterson is saying, we should act in that way. And I think it's really important to let love be a leading part of how you show your opinion, how you express your opinion. And with this, we come to our second part of the talk. And that's about who's inspiring for you. Maybe you're inspired by your parents, or maybe by family, or maybe friends, or maybe by an artist, or a movie, or whatever, maybe Greek philosophers. There are a lot of people you can be inspired by. But I just want to give you a half a minute or something to think about what's the person who inspires you the most, and what attracts you in that person, and what are the things you want to take over from that person. What kind of behavior, what kind of acting. Just half a minute, think about who is really inspiring for you. I hope you have really good people in your mind at the moment. When I think about this question, for me, the most inspiring person I've ever read about, I ever been inspired by, I think is Jesus. I don't know if you know the guy, but there's a lot of people have been written down a lot of things about him. But for an example, how I was inspired also by him, when I read the stories about him, you see him always looking for the outcasts in society. The people on the side of the society. People are not allowed inside society. And a few years ago, me and my wife were looking also for a place to live. And inspired by the stories of Jesus, we decided to live in a House of Salvation Army. And we're living together with people coming straight out of jail, out of a rehab, or straight from the street. It was not the most easy people to live with. But a lot of people who are not loved by society. Not seen by society. And we thought, okay, we want to live together with those people. Because Jesus loved those kinds of persons, so just follow his example. And it was really inspiring. We've learned a lot from those people. And it's really also good to see who they are and really get in contact with them. In the Christmas holidays, I've been reading a book. It's a book written by Tom Holland. Tom Holland, the historian, not the actor of Spider-Man. That's a completely other person. Probably he's also smart, but maybe less. But Tom Holland wrote a book, Dominion, The Making of the Western Mind. And before this book, he wrote a lot of books about Roman history, Greek history, Mesopotamian history. He's really an expert on different kind of societies and way of thinking and what's happening. And what he's saying in his book, he's doing an investigation about the last 2,000 years, what happened in Western society, and the making of the Western mind. And he's saying that everybody here in the Western society is inspired by the person of Jesus, by the stories of Jesus. Tom Holland himself is not a Christian. But he's saying, if I look to how the way we're thinking at this moment in society, the Western way of thinking, we're all inspired by these stories. For example, in his book, he's saying, Christianity is the most influential framework for making sense of human existence that ever existed. This is a big statement. And during Q&A, we can debate about this, but I think it's really interesting to have a person like that saying something like this. Another thing he's also saying is, there was an interview, compacted into this very, very small amount of writing, was almost everything that explains the modern world and the way the West has then moved to shape concepts like international law, concepts of human rights, all these kind of things. Ultimately, they don't go back to the Greek philosophers, they don't go back to Roman imperialism, they go back to Paul. His letters, I think, along with the four Gospels, are the most influential, the most impactful, the most revolutionary writing that have emerged from ancient worlds. So he himself is not a Christian, but he's saying those books, and the letters of Paul, you can find them also in the Bible, he's saying that are the most powerful, the most impactful, influential books ever written in ancient history. And in his book, he's explaining about it, the way how we treat people. He's saying that that everybody is equal. He's saying that's completely coming from a Christian mindset. The way that we take care of the weak people in society, that's also something he's saying. I don't see that in the Greek history. I don't see it in Roman history. The only moment when it rises up is in Christian the Christian area. And to make it a little bit more clearer, it's maybe also nice to read one of those books. And on your table there's a mark and cover. And I want to ask you just to take it with you. And I want to read a part with you together, if that's okay. It's the oldest biography of Jesus. And it's in English and Dutch, and there are differences on your table. And in the English version, I want to go with you to page 46. And for the people who have the Dutch version, I don't know exactly which page you have to go to, but it's Mark 9, verse 30. '46. So page 46. And I'm going to start with the top part. So it's Mark 9, verse 30. They left that place and passed through Galilee. Jesus did not want anyone to know where they were, because he was teaching his disciples. He said to them, "The Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and after 3 days he will rise." But they did not understand what he meant, and were afraid to ask him about it. They came to Capernaum, and he was in the house. He asked them, "What were you arguing about on the road?" But they kept quiet, because on the way they had argued about who was the greatest. Sitting down, Jesus called the 12 and said, "Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last, and the servant of all." He took a little child, whom he placed among them. Taking the child in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one of these little children in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me does not welcome me, but the one who sent me." And according to Tom Holland, this kind of text is really changed the mindset of that time. It changed the way we focus on the people of society, to take care of the weak, and to also to, if you want to lead, if you want to be important, be a servant. That's something of the lessons of Jesus, what he gave to his followers. But Tom Holland is not the only thinker who's been thinking about this and is saying something like that. Tom Holland himself is an agnostic historian. Friedrich Nietzsche, probably you know him, he's a philosopher, and he also wrote a lot about this, and he's saying that it's such a stupid idea that everybody is equal. He despised the whole idea. But he's saying the idea of everybody is equal is coming from Christianity. And he's saying that's the basic of the human rights we have at the moment. It's already 100 years before Tom Holland. But also in the book *Sapiens* of Yuval Noah Harari, he's also referring to that point that everybody is equal is coming from the Christian mindset. They're all saying, okay, this is something where we find the basic for this. They're not agreeing on Christianity whatsoever, but they're saying the basic from this idea we find over here. And to get a better clue also about what does it say, why is it such a big difference, it's also good to know a little bit about the history. Tom Holland wrote a lot about the Romans. And he's saying also in his book that during that time, a child didn't have any rights. They were just property. Just the same also with slaves. Most women were also just property. Poor men were also some kind of property. If you were a rich aristocrat, you could do a lot of things. If you were a guy, you were the owner of your house, but you also were the owner of everything in your house. So it didn't matter if it was a slave, if it was a woman, if it was a child, whatever. You could do whatever you want with them. You could beat them up. You could have sex with them. That was something in the Roman society. And he's saying that after Christian time, or during Christian time, things were changing. The mindset changed. And there came another view on human beings, that everybody is equal. And that view that is always challenging. And during yeah, the millennia, it's been a discussion, and people have been using it for, I think, greater good. For example, also Martin Luther King Jr. Probably all of you know him. He's been beaten up for a lot of times because of his opinion that everybody is equal. They put him into jail for that opinion. They threat his family, they threat himself. He suffered a lot of injustice because of his opinion that everybody should be equal. And in the prison of Birmingham, he wrote the following. He said, "We love people not because we like them, or because of what they are doing attracts us, nor because they got a divine spark. We love all the people because God loves him. God loves them." And he's saying that's the main goal why we should love people. God loves everybody. That gives us the basic statement that we should love everybody. And that inspired him also until his death, until they shoot him to death. And he was inspired by the person of Jesus. Jesus himself, who also died on a cross. And were even forgiving people who were crucifying him, nailed him to a cross. He was still forgiving people around him. And that was a focus Martin Luther inspired, and many, many other people inspired, but also what we still experience also in our society, that we see people as equal, and that we want to take care of weaker people. And I think that's something what I see in the person of Jesus. Truth and love are coming together. We see him loving other people. But he is also really looking for other people, who they really are, and wants to connect with him. And I think truth without love is really hard. It's really, you don't want to deal with that all the time. It's really difficult. But love without truth is fake. And I think in the person of Jesus, you can find both in a real good connection. That's what I experience in my life. And that's also the inspiration he gives for us, that we should be led by love. That should be our focus. Or like Augustine is saying about this, love and do what you want. I think that could be a main message about Christianity. Start with love. If we want to express our opinion, start with love, and let that be the basic if we want to express our opinion. Be consistent, but let it all be out of love. And not love for yourself, but love for others. And just to summarize a little bit about what I've been talking about, we started with a little bit about opinions, different opinions, like a piercing, like Tjeerd Andringa on the University of Groningen was kicked out because of his opinion. We moved to Pearson, that often we can lie to ourselves, we can lie to other people, we can also lie to ourselves. That's important to be consistent in what we're thinking, what we're doing. And also that we should be open-minded to other things. And we also have been looking at how a Western mind is formed, and that the basic of it we can find in Christianity. A lot of thinking about how we look at other human beings. And today I want to challenge you. You're sitting here, probably you go to classes in a few minutes. Maybe you're sitting here and thinking, okay, I don't know about Christianity, it's not really something for me. I really want to thank you also for coming today. And I'm really looking forward also to your questions, so please send them also to Slido. But also, please take one of the uncovers with you. And if you don't have it in English or Dutch, you can just get it from somebody around the room with a Passion Week sweater. But just take it for yourself and read it for yourself. At least you'll be better informed about the story. And it was one of the most influential, impactful, and revolutionary books, according to Tom Holland. And it's a short book, so it's easy to read. So please take it with you. But also maybe read the book of Tom Holland. I think I can really recommend it also. It's a little bit thick, but it's a really good book. But it can also be that you're sitting here and thinking, yeah, I like to explore more. I like to investigate. Maybe you've heard some new things. Maybe you just heard a lot of crap, but you're still inspired to learn more. That's also okay. If that's for you, on your table there's also a feedback card. We love to have your feedback on the event. This is the first time in 2 years that's in real life again, the Passion Week. So please give your feedback on the event. Do you really like the food, but you think the speaker sucks? Please write it down. The next time I will not be here. Perfectly fine. But we will really love to have your feedback. But if you're thinking, I'd like to explore more, I'd like to investigate, you can also leave your name and your telephone number and check the box, tell me more. And then somebody of the committee will be in contact with you, and then you can just explore and just debate with other people about big questions in life. I would really love you to recommend to fill it in. And now I just want to give you 1-2 minutes to send in questions, fill in the feedback form, and then we go to Q&A. Oh, yeah, and if you need to move or to go to classes, you can just go. Please take some extra food with you. And also, if you got other questions, you can also write them down, and we can get in contact with you. We're not going to use your phone number for anything else than just contact you one time to get in contact with you.
Free to ask any questions you still have. I'd like to inform you of the rest of this Passion Week. We will be going for 1.5 days after now. Tonight we will be having a game about switching perspectives, and tomorrow you are invited in this very same room again for the lunch lecture, this time by Alex van Ness, about how do you find truth. And tomorrow evening there will also be a game evening, so feel free to come to all those events.
Questions? If you need to leave, feel welcome to leave. Thank you for coming. Are maybe questions already in the room? There are some questions on the screen, but if somebody got a question here and wants to ask it in real life, then the floor is yours.
Yeah, sure. I have a question. The professor was kicked out for teaching conspiracy. Why do you consider this an opinion and not a misguided fiction of truth?
Good question. It's also on the screen, so it's really helpful. So I will repeat it, so it's good, also good for the people back home. The professor kicked out for teaching conspiracy. Who do you consider this? Why do you consider this opinion and not a misguided vision on truth? I think it's always good. I think a lot of people have wrong opinions about a lot of things. And we're, in a lot of things, we're probably misinformed, or we don't know exactly how things work. But we just accept a lot of things. If it's about conspiracy, I don't get it. But I think it's still important to see the other person as a person also with opinion and try to understand what's going on. So I think that's, if you say directly you have a misguided vision on truth, then I already put somebody completely in a box like, okay, I'm totally not open for your truth. I'm not open for your opinion. I'm not interested at all. And for me, I think it's always important to start with, okay, try to understand the other person. Even if you totally don't agree with it at this moment, try to be open for it. But you don't have to accept completely the opinion. And I
do agree with your principle, but he's a professor, and as a professor, one of the things you have to, if you get a doctorate, you agree to be honest about the limits of your knowledge. Clearly, if you teach conspiracy, you don't know the limits of your knowledge. So this is just a professional situation in which somebody cannot act out of professional.
Yeah. So I think for university it's good to make decisions on this. So I think it's good that the university just say, okay, we don't want to have something like this in our university, because when I was reading also the reports about it, people really feel pressed also in some kind of way, and I think that's not really helpful for both sides. But also, yeah, you want to have an open, you want to have a good debate about big topics, and you don't want to spread out conspiracies in that way. But it can be, I think it's also important, if you don't believe in conspiracy, sometimes talk with people with conspiracy, at least to try to understand what's going on. And just don't put them in a box, like this is all there is. Then we'll go to the first question. What if you don't really know what you want? I think it's a really important question also to ask yourself. And there are a lot of things you can do. And I think the thing that helped me always most is talk with people about it. So if it's you and you have completely no clue, I would certainly suggest fill in a feedback form, so maybe somebody can help you with finding out what you really want. And also it takes time. Just make time also in your schedule to do this. What I often do is I just go. I organize stuff, I arrange stuff, I'm just constantly involved in meetings, in just meeting up with people. And there's not much time just to really think about life. Think about what's going on in my life, to reflect on it. So I think it's also really good to have some reflection on it, to think about what I'm doing. Do I want to do this? And I think also one of the most important things is to have a good friends around you. People who know you. Sometimes it's your parents, but sometimes it can also, often you just also need somebody from your own age or somebody from a different background who can ask the good questions to you. And I think it's good that every week, at least every month, somebody's asking to you, what's going on in your life? What's happening? And it's also good to ask it to other people, because you really need this to just have a moment of reflection, but also a moment to investigate what's going on in my life, how I'm feeling at this moment, and what do I need. And what also helps for me always is just reading. If you want to search out what you really want, read or watch some good documentaries maybe. Or maybe podcasts, something like that. That can also really help. But most of all, just ask people around you, people who are close to you, to connect. Hey, I'm just searching for this question. And if you don't have the person in your life, please fill in the feedback form to get into contact. Because people want to help you also with finding out this kind of questions. Second question, if Tom Holland is not a Christian, but sees the importance of Jesus and his ministry, why is he still an agnostic? I think it's a really good question. When he was starting with his book, in the introduction of his book, he's also saying that for a long time he was really, really feeling angry against Christianity, because he really loved the Greek and Roman world. He found it inspiring to all the stories he was reading, the way people were behaving to each other. He really loved to read about the history about it. And that all those things were changing when Christianity came up. And that was one of the things that was coming up in his mind before he was writing the book. He thought, okay, what's happening there? Because he was also saying that the things he really enjoyed in some way of the Roman time was it was a harsh world and a lot of violence and stuff like that. And he found it from an historic point of view really interesting to go deep into that. But he said, why do I condemn that kind of things at this moment? And in his book, he's exploring that kind of thinking. Why is he thinking in this way as he's thinking now? And in the book, he's also, I think he's searching. He's describing what's grown up as Christian. He abandoned Christian, I think around his student time. And now he's slowly coming back a little bit. In an interview he said, I'm almost a Christian. He's just only not the part of Jesus and a relationship with Jesus and his resurrection, that I think kind of things that he finds difficult. So he's agreeing on the main part of how to behave and all those kind of stuff. But there's another thing, there's a connection with God. And I think that's also part of Christianity. So what Christians believe is that Jesus died on the cross, but he wasn't dead anymore. He rose again after 3 days. And he did this because he wants to restore a relationship between us and God. And that's, I think, something you can find a lot of historical interesting stuff in Christianity, but that's, I think, main part also about being Christian is being in connection with God, being in a relationship with God. And that's something I think Tom Holland is investigating. He's not convinced. He's also not a complete atheist, but he's investigating what's going on, how do I interpret those things, and how do I feel about it. So I'm not sure what way it will go, but I think he made a lot of steps towards Christianity when he was writing the book. So I'm really curious what will happen in the future. Yes?
I had a question about, you say, do what you love, and don't lie to yourself. But I also find in my own life that, especially when I'm doing things that I don't like, a lot of the time it builds character. A lot of the time, going through those hardships, going through those things that are uncomfortable, you become a more rounded person, more diverse, and you see more aspects of life. How do you find the balance between doing what you love and pushing yourself to become a greater person, although that it's not always what you love to do?
Yeah, good question. I will repeat it for the people back home. How do you define the thin line between sometimes you need some things, some difficulties to grow, to build up character and so on. You cannot always do the things you love. I think in general in life there will be things happening that that are not easy. You cannot always do things that you really love. And I think if you see love in a way of an easy love, like, oh, I just like this so much and that's so great, then I think this is about a deeper love. A love for not the things I like, but also the things love people. So if I look to the life of Jesus when he died on the cross, he was, I think he didn't think at that moment, I really love to do this, in the way like, oh, this awesome feeling. No, I think he was, at that moment, he was loving, but loving in a deeper sense. And I think that's what it's all about, is a love for other people, a love that goes further than your own happiness, to give up some of your capabilities. Because I think you really need sometimes that you have to fight for things and you have to be challenged by things. And some people really like it, but I think it's also good sometimes to just explore it and find out how it builds up your character. But I think, I would think in this way that do what you love is mostly also sometimes focus on how can I serve other people. And that's something that's not listening to nice music and just go to a nice festival. But it's mostly also about, okay, how can I be second? How can the other person be first? And that's, I think, in one of the most difficult things in Christianity is, in the end, accepting that you are not in charge. That's what I do in my life. I'm not in charge. I know there is a God who loves every one of us and wants to be in connection with us. And the idea behind this, that it's not about me. It's not about my future. It's not about all the things I want to reach out. There's a God who loves every one of us, and he wants to be in connection with us. And I want to follow that path. And that's the thing. That's the place also where I believe I can really find the love in the most pure way it's possible to experience. So I hope it's a little bit an answer on your question.
Yeah, kind of. Well, it's like really focused on the community sense, but if bring it to the study.
Mm-hmm.
I get that community, the great good of community is. I do totally agree with that. The good of community is always better than the self doing. But if you there are lots of times that in order to help other people, you first have to build on yourself because if you are not a whole yourself, you
Mm-hmm.
can't be there for other people. You can't help other people. My question still stands about how do you mix the self-building with the doing. So, for example, if I'm doing really great things for other people,
Yeah.
I love that. Then I'm still doing what I love.
Yeah.
But it's not really hard because I love what I'm doing. I'm helping other people. But I don't think that is always the kind of growth somebody needs because you are still doing what you love. If you love it, then although it's not the act itself is not fun, the end goal is still what you want to do. But it also creates character, and there are things happening that don't have like this big goal or don't have further intentions, but they are still you still need to do them. And so my question still stands about how do you connect that? How do you?
Yeah, I think the question is about how your personal growth and how you can develop that. If it's not specifically going for the community, how you use it. Yeah. And I think if you look to your study, you can study just for yourself. Like I want to become a master in whatever, or do you do a PhD or all those things. And you can see it like, okay, I'm just doing this for my own growth. I want to have the status. But then you're not building your character at all. Then it's just about, I want to become important. I want to be massive in some way. And I think also what Peterson was saying, you have to focus on your character. So also if you're doing your study, you can build up your character like, how can I use this in the end? So if you're going to study, and you only study for yourself, then I think you're just wasting your time. Because nobody's really interested in an extra person who is just doing this for yourself. But I think if you can use the talents you build up and how you develop during your study time, I think if you can use that for a greater good, for helping people. So I think you really need sometimes just to be alone and just study and just go through it. But in the end, I think we all have gifts and we all have talents. And I think we have to develop them in different ways, and we are different persons, and we respond in different ways. So I think it's really important to do that, but I think also for every talent you have, don't only use it for yourself, but try to look, how can I serve community with this? If I finish my study, how can I help our society further? How can I be helping this company? How can I help them to be more responsible for environment or for people working here or all those things? So I think in that way you can use it also. And in that moment directly you don't see the way you help the society. But I think in the end you always have to maybe think, okay, the talents I have, they are just a gift I can use. And they're not primarily for my own sake. But maybe I can use them for the rest of the world. Or maybe just a small part of my family or people around me. Just start with small and then try to grow. I think I've been kicked out now.
Well, yeah. I mean, luckily there's no lecture after this, so we've got some space to discuss. But yeah, we are going to end the talk now. If you got some personal questions for Frederik, ask him, and there's still room for that outside. There was someone with a more difficult question, so if you still want to ask that, feel free to do so. But yeah, the answer for that will be incredibly long, so we can't do that here now. So thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you either tonight or tomorrow, because we're still not done with this Passion Week. And I think that's basically it. Thank you, everyone.
And I will still be around, so if people want to talk further, please come and step by and we can talk.